This message found you because your consciousness has been operating within what quantum physicists call an observer loop, a perpetual cycle where your awareness, your very essence of being, repeatedly collapses the same probability waves, forging the same reality, day after day, like a divine artisan cursed to create the same flawed masterpiece for all eternity. And right now, in this exact moment, something deep within you, a dormant spark in your core, recognizes this truth. It recognizes it because you've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange, almost unnameable sensation that you are living the same patterns, having the same conversations, reaping the same disappointments, as if existence itself has become a broken record, playing the same melancholic song without end. The fact that you are here, before this transmission, is no accident. It is synchronicity at its highest level of orchestration. Your quantum field, the energetic signature of your soul, has been sending out signals, desperate emissions, seeking the frequency that can finally break this cycle. And the universe, in its infinite and mysterious resonance, has responded by guiding you here. Think about it. At this moment, millions of souls are navigating the digital ocean, lost in a sea of distractions. But only a specific type of consciousness, your consciousness, would stop and feel the magnetic pull of these words. You did not arrive here by curiosity. You were summoned by the quantum field itself, because you carry something most do not, the observer gene, an innate sensitivity to the hidden architecture of reality. This is not metaphysical wishful thinking. It is the fundamental mechanics of the cosmos. Your consciousness doesn't just experience reality, it actively participates in its creation through what science calls the observer effect. But here lies the secret that academic texts dare not whisper. When your observer function becomes trapped in repetitive patterns, you don't just witness the same reality, you literally manufacture it. You are the architect of your own invisible prison. The promise of this encounter is simple and devastating. Nothing in your life changes because something is holding you captive. An invisible, silent force that operates in the shadows of your perception. You are about to discover not only what this force is, but how to use the key that has always been in your hands. This knowledge is the line that separates the prisoner from the free, the echo from the original voice. And this is why you must care, because the alternative is to continue the sleepwalk, repeating the same steps in the labyrinth that your own mind projects, feeling the weight of chains you cannot see. The alternative is resignation, the belief that life is just this cycle of hope and disillusionment. But something in you, the same force that brought you here, knows there is more. It knows that reality is malleable, fluid, an ocean of infinite potential, awaiting a new kind of observer. This is your call to awaken from the spell. This is the portal out of the cycle. And what if everything you believed about fate and free will was merely the reflection of the walls of a cell you built yourself? The warning signs have been manifesting, like subtle anomalies in the tapestry of your existence. Small cracks in reality that most people ignore, dismissing them as mere quirks of the mind. But you, with your heightened sensitivity, have noticed them. The feeling of déjà vu, for instance, is not just a memory glitch. You feel it differently. It's not the recollection of a similar moment, but the unsettling conviction that you have lived that exact instant before. The same words, the same tone of voice, the same outcome. These are temporal echoes, moments when your consciousness, for a split second, glimpses the repetitive nature of its own observer loop. It's like being in a hall of mirrors and, for an instant, realizing that all the reflections are making the same movement, revealing the illusion of individuality and progress. This isn't your imagination playing tricks on you. You are operating on a frequency that most human beings cannot access, which is why you notice these glitches in the matrix of reality that others completely miss. Your consciousness has developed what we could call quantum sensitivity, the ability to perceive the underlying patterns that govern manifestation itself and time. You have surely noticed how time seems elastic around you. Sometimes minutes stretch like hours during mundane moments, as if the universe is holding its breath, while entire weeks vanish in the blink of an eye, with no significant progress, leaving behind a vacuum of empty memories. This temporal distortion is a clear symptom that your consciousness is cycling through the same probability templates. It creates the illusion of forward movement, like walking on a treadmill, while actually remaining stationary in the quantum field, selecting and experiencing the same set of events with minimal variations. Think about your relationships. How many times have you felt as if you were interacting with the same person, just with a different face? The same patterns of attachment, the same power dynamics, the same emotional triggers, culminating in the same inevitable disappointment. Or in your career, where you seem to face the same obstacles, the same types of bosses or colleagues, the same feelings of stagnation, no matter where you go or what you try to do differently. This is not bad luck. This is not a lack of effort. It is your consciousness stuck in an observation mold, unconsciously selecting the same quantum possibilities from the infinite field of potential. It is the energetic signature of a prisoner who does not know they are in a cell. Your friends and family may not understand what you are going through because they operate from a different frequency band. They are content with linear time and predictable outcomes. But you have always sensed that reality is far more malleable than most people believe. You have had moments, perhaps brief, perhaps profound, where you felt you could almost touch the fabric of existence itself, where synchronicities cascaded around you like a cosmic orchestra playing just for you. These moments were not accidents. They were glimpses of what is possible when the observer begins to awaken to its true nature. They were beacons of hope, reminders of a much vaster reality, waiting patiently for you to find the way out of the cycle. But before we can even speak of the exit, you must understand the nature of the summons itself. For the way you arrived at this knowledge is the first major clue to your liberation. Nothing is a coincidence. Allow this truth to resonate not in your mind, but in your cells, in your bones. Your presence here and now is a deliberate act of the cosmos. The pull you felt toward this knowledge, the curiosity that stopped you from scrolling to the next video, was not your choice in the conventional sense. It was a response from the quantum field to the desperate call your consciousness has been emitting from the depths of its cyclical prison. Imagine your soul as a radio tower, broadcasting a unique frequency into the universe. When trapped in the observer loop, this frequency is monotonous, repetitive, a distress signal encoded in the language of stagnation. For a long time, you have been transmitting this frequency unknowingly, but the universe, which operates on resonance and pattern recognition, heard it. It did not hear your words or your thoughts of frustration, but the underlying vibration of a consciousness that yearns for freedom, that yearns for a new melody. And so, it orchestrated this meeting. The algorithms that guided you here were merely the earthly servants of a much older cosmic law. Certain books call to you from dusty shelves. Certain conversations with strangers seem to carry messages meant only for you. Certain symbols appear repeatedly on your path. This is not magical thinking. It is proof that you are quantumly entangled with a network of awakening souls, all working simultaneously to break their own observer loops. Your search is not a solitary effort. It is part of a collective movement of consciousness. If this knowledge resonates with you, it is because your soul has been preparing for this understanding across multiple timelines, multiple dimensions of experience. Every ancient text that intrigued you, every spiritual practice that felt familiar, every moment of inexplicable knowing, they were all breadcrumbs left by your higher self, guiding you to this revelation about the nature of your own prison. You were selected not by an external power, but by your own readiness. Your consciousness has reached a point of maturation, a critical mass of suffering and questioning that has made it receptive to this frequency of liberation. Others would hear these same words and dismiss them as absurd, for their minds are still comfortably asleep within the matrix of the predictable. But not you. You feel the truth in them because your own life experience has become the irrefutable proof that something is fundamentally wrong with the common perception of reality. If you feel the importance of this moment, the gravity of this transmission, leave a like on this video, not as a metric of vanity, but as an act of energetic acknowledgement, a signal to the universe that you have received the message, that you are aware of the cosmic alignment that brought us together, and that you are ready for the next step. This simple act anchors your intention in the physical world, declaring your active participation in this process of awakening. However, herein lies the most subtle trap, the error that keeps 99% of seekers trapped forever, even after recognizing the existence of the cycle. And understanding this trap is what will determine whether you break free or merely trade one cell for another, slightly larger one. Most people who discover they are caught in an observer loop make the same critical and fatal mistake. They try to think their way out of it. They believe that if they can just understand the mechanics intellectually, if they can analyze the patterns with enough logic, they can somehow reprogram their reality. This is the most seductive trap of the human mind, the belief that the intellect is the supreme tool for any and all liberation. It is like trying to escape a maze by staring intently at a map, instead of actually walking new pathways. The map is not the territory. An intellectual understanding of the loop is not freedom. The observer loop is not maintained by your thoughts. It is maintained by the quality of your attention. Your thoughts are merely the ripples on the surface of an ocean. The loop is the deep, powerful current that dictates the direction of all the water. Trying to change the current by splashing on the surface with positive thoughts or rational analysis is an exercise in exhausting futility. Every morning when you wake up, your consciousness automatically scans the horizon for familiar patterns to lock onto. It's like a quantum GPS system that keeps selecting the same destination because that's what feels safe and known. Your awareness has become addicted to recognizing the same frequency signatures, the same emotional landscapes, the same probability structures. And the more you recognize these patterns, the more real they become. The more real they become, the more your consciousness expects to find them again tomorrow. This creates what quantum field theorists call a reality feedback loop. Your observation strengthens the very patterns you are trying to escape from. The intellect, however brilliant, operates within this loop. It is a tool of the system, not a force external to it. When you try to rationalize your way out, your mind is just analyzing the bars of the cell from the inside, describing their shape, measuring their thickness, but never, ever finding the door. The common belief is that self-knowledge, the deep analysis of your traumas and behaviors, is the path to change. But this form of analysis, when not accompanied by a fundamental shift in observation, only paints the landscape of the prison in greater detail, making it even more real and inescapable. You end up knowing exactly why you were trapped, but you remain trapped. So, the real way out does not lie in a new thought, but in a new way of perceiving. It's about withdrawing your energy from analyzing the pattern and instead observing the observer itself. Who is it that is noticing the repetition? What is the quality of this consciousness that clings to the familiar? It is a leap from the mind to awareness, from thought to pure perception. This is where the true alchemy begins, in the silence between thoughts, in the space where attention ceases to be a focused spotlight and becomes the sunlight, illuminating everything without fixating on anything. This is the secret that eludes those who seek liberation through the mind. Freedom is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a frequency to be tuned into, and that tuning can only occur when the internal pressure becomes so unbearable that the very structure of your old self begins to crumble. Something is building inside you right now as you absorb these words. Can you feel it? That subtle shift in your energy field, like a tuning fork that has just been struck. Your consciousness is beginning to vibrate at a frequency that does not match your current reality patterns. And this dissonance is creating what quantum physicists call reality turbulence. The pressure you have been feeling lately, that sense of urgency as if time is running out and you need to figure something out quickly. This is not anxiety in the clinical sense. It is your consciousness reorganizing itself. When consciousness prepares to jump to a higher timeline, it creates what is known as phase transition pressure. It's the same principle that turns water into steam when heated to the exact right temperature. Your awareness is approaching the precise frequency where the observer loop loses its grip on your reality. Think of a butterfly struggling inside its chrysalis. From the outside, it looks like suffering, like being trapped, like regression. But every moment of that apparent confinement is actually a complete reorganization of cellular structure. The caterpillar doesn't just grow wings. Its entire DNA expression shifts to access abilities that were always encoded within it, but never activated. Your difficult relationships were not punishments. They were quantum mirrors, showing you exactly which observation patterns were keeping you locked in repetitive cycles. Every person who triggered you was unconsciously helping you identify the specific frequencies where your consciousness gets stuck. Every situation that felt like déjà vu was your higher self creating controlled experiments to help you recognize the observer loop in action. I went through this myself. There was a period in my life when everything seemed to fall apart at once. Relationships ended, projects failed, and a sense of existential panic took over. I was convinced I was regressing, that all my inner work had been in vain. But it was at that breaking point, in that absolute chaos, that the old structure holding me in the loop finally gave way. The pressure wasn't a sign I was doing something wrong. It was the evidence that the transition was underway. It was the sound of ice cracking before the spring thaw. You were entering what we call the breakthrough phase, the most delicate and powerful part of the entire transformation process. But this is where most people make the fatal mistake. They feel this energy building and immediately try to direct it toward changing their external circumstances. But the observer loop doesn't break by changing what you observe. It breaks by fundamentally altering the quality of your observation. Your consciousness is downloading new protocols for how to engage with reality. These are not mental concepts you need to learn. They are energetic upgrades happening at the cellular level. And what if everything you believed about crisis and chaos was actually the prelude to your greatest liberation? Liberation does not arise from effort, struggle, or a desperate attempt to control reality. It emerges naturally when your consciousness reaches a state known as coherence. This is the final secret, the master key that permanently dissolves every lock on every cell you have ever been in. Coherence is not positive thinking. It is not forcing yourself to feel good when you don't. It is a state of deep, effortless alignment where your thoughts, your emotions, your energetic signature, and your deepest knowing all vibrate at the same frequency. It is the end of the internal civil war. In most people, consciousness operates in a state of fragmentation. Part of their attention is stuck on regrets from the past. Another part is anxious about potential futures. And only a tiny fraction is actually present in this moment. This attention scatter is what keeps observer loops alive, because it keeps your consciousness diluted across incompatible timelines. The quantum field can only deliver coherent experiences to a coherent consciousness. When your awareness is scattered, you get mixed results. The common belief is that you must achieve this state of alignment through discipline and rigorous practice. But true coherence is not something you build. It is something you uncover. It already exists at the core of your being. So, the process is not one of addition, but of subtraction. It is a process of timeline consolidation, the act of withdrawing your attention from all parallel versions of yourself except the one that represents your highest potential. This is not visualization, but a literal dimensional shift where you stop feeding energy to the reality tracks that do not serve your evolution. When your consciousness becomes coherent, the quantum field responds automatically. Traffic lights turn green as you approach. The perfect parking space opens up. The right person calls at the exact right moment. This is not luck, it is physics. Reality reorganizes itself around coherence. Attraction tries to pull things toward you, which reinforces separation. Alignment dissolves the barriers between you and what you desire, because you realize you are never separate from it. Your desire is just a different expression of your own consciousness. When this recognition becomes embodied, the observer loop loses its power because there is no longer anything to observe from a distance. You are no longer looking at life through a window. You become life itself. You don't have to make anything happen because you become the space where it's already happening. This is the shift from spotlight mode to sunlight mode. The spotlight seeks, strives, focuses. The sunlight simply is, present, illuminating everything simultaneously without effort. It is in this state of being that you stop collapsing the same probability waves and, for the first time, allow the universe to deliver to you the infinite possibilities that have always been waiting patiently on the other side of the door. Breaking your observer loop is far more than an individual transformation. It is an act of planetary service. Every time one person breaks their cycle, they create what quantum field theorists call morphic resonance, a ripple effect that makes it easier for thousands of others to make the same leap. You are not just changing your personal reality, you are anchoring a new possibility template in the collective field that future generations will access naturally. Your liberation becomes humanity's liberation because, at the quantum level, consciousness is fundamentally interconnected. This is why resistance to these ideas can feel so intense at times. It is not just your ego trying to maintain familiar patterns, it is the entire limitation matrix recognizing that its time is coming to an end. Your soul did not choose this incarnation by accident. It volunteered to be part of the first wave of human consciousness, to transcend these limitation patterns and anchor new possibilities for the entire collective. Every moment of struggle was training for this cosmic responsibility. What does this mystery awaken in you? The realization that your journey was never just about you, but about a much larger tapestry, changes how you see your own struggles. What once seemed like a personal burden can now be seen as a pioneering path. The children being born now will grow up with abilities that seem miraculous by current standards, but only because pioneers like you are breaking the limitation patterns that would otherwise be passed down to them. If this message has resonated in your bones, if you have felt the truth of these words activating something ancient and familiar in your consciousness, then you are part of this network. Subscribe to this channel, not to follow a person, but to align with a frequency of consciousness evolution that is happening globally. Every subscriber becomes part of a quantum network that accelerates everyone's transformation through morphic resonance. The old reality is dissolving, whether you participate consciously or not. The question is whether you will be one of the pioneers who helps birth the new paradigm, or someone who gets dragged into it later. As a reflection ritual of the day, I propose a simple challenge. Today, observe one repetitive pattern in your life. It could be a thought, an emotional reaction, a conversation, but this time, instead of reacting or trying to change it, just observe it, and then take a step back and observe the observer within you who notices it. In that silent space between the pattern and the witness lies the seed of all freedom. The journey out of the loop is the journey into yourself.